started.
Okay, yeah, it started. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the first class of SQL Server Basics. Myself, Amshuman, and I have Shah and Chandra who have all joined. Right. Let us start with the first two modules. So let me share my screen. So let me know once you are able to finish. Vishwa, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for coming. So I think the topics, contents was already shared with all of you. So overall course is like divided into around 11 modules, and slowly we'll progress. We'll start from basics, fundamentals. We'll have a walkthrough of the concepts, and then we'll start with databases, SQL queries, various types of queries, and we'll further deep dive into each category of queries. We'll also see what is built-in functions. Can somebody go on mute? A lot of background noise. Yeah, unless you want to talk. Yeah. So we'll see built-in functions which come along with SQL Server. We'll also see what are joins, what are subqueries, what are indexes, stored objects. So under stored objects, we'll see what are usually stored procedures, triggers. So there, that ends the basics. So today, what we'll do, we'll cover the first two modules: introduction to DBMS and introduction to SQL Server, because these are concepts, and anybody before starting to learn SQL queries and all, they should be aware of these. Right? And tomorrow we'll be covering databases. That is the overall plan. Okay, so with that, without wasting more time, let me go into the presentation. So first, we have to understand what are file management systems. So in the demo class, we have seen how the data had been handled previously, right? And especially file management systems are very important because due to the problems which are there in the file management systems, relational databases, object-oriented databases, and object-relational databases, all these were formed, right? So we have to understand the problems in file management systems to understand what advantages relational databases, RDBMS, brings to the table, right? So file management system can be defined as a software that manages files in a computer system or network. That means you have a set of files you want to share with somebody, or you want to put it in a network drive, or you want to transfer the files to some other location, or you want to access these files in some other way. That is called a file management system. So standard example is an FTP server. So some of you might have already come across this term like file transfer protocol server, right? So there is a protocol defined by industry which is called file transfer protocol, and there are some servers offered based on the FTP protocol. So when I say server, just think of it as a computer system where all these files are maintained, and you can control the access to the file system, various files, and do a number of other operations, right? And there will be some client software like FileZilla, a lot of other softwares are. You can download this client software, you can give your credentials, and then start accessing the files, transferring the files, and do all the delete or standard file operations, right? So that is an example of file management system. And latest examples are like OneDrive, Google Drive. These are all like cloud-based file management system. So when you go to any file management system, it is more or less like a folder structure that you see on standard Windows operating system. You have a parent folder, and under that you have child folders and all that, and within that you have files. So what are the problems? So it has limited capabilities. That means taking a backup and restricting the view of the files. So I think we discussed in the demo as well, right? So for example, if I have a notepad, this can act as a file in your file system, right? So I have name. So I have to first put my column names, right? Name, age, uh, something like roll number, whatever, class, whatever. Right? And after that, I'll start typing my uh, data. I'll have the data. So for example, if somebody comes in, I've saved this file, right? It is there on the FTP server, and somebody wants to access the file, and I want to restrict this particular column class. So that person should not see this class. So I can't create a view on top of this file. So what I have to do, I have to open this file, go here and say save as, right? And before that, I have to remove this column and save as another file and give that file. So that what will happen? So based on the requirement, I have to keep on creating new files, right? So that is only one of the major problems that you see with file management system. There are lots of other problems, right? Retrieving the data and avoiding redundancy. All these are very challenging tasks in a file management system. But still, we are able to see file management systems like cloud-based systems like OneDrive, Google Drive, whatnot, like cabinet and all these things, right? So why these are still famous and being used? So majorly like OneDrive, the normal use case nowadays is like as we are using a lot of mobile devices and we take a lot of photos and a lot of video and image content getting generated. We can't store everything on our mobile devices, so we'll have a OneDrive subscription and we'll store the files there as a backup, right? Not only a backup, like it's like an archive. Right? So still these are very popular because normal users who are using just mobile devices, end users, they can't create a database and do all the functions. So that's why still these are used. But for the software development purposes for IT projects, especially when you want to relate the data and have multiple databases, do a lot of programming activities, file management systems are not right. So no relational database capability. So it can't relate the data, and you can't include programming language. So there is nothing like a structured query language or some other language using which you can put some query and retrieve the data. So as the data grows, fetching the data or a combination of data will become very, very difficult. Okay. So those are all like inherent challenges with the file management system. And examples as we discussed, these are OneDrive, Cabinet, Google Drive, Contentverse, number of players. Okay. So any questions, please raise your hand. Okay. Or otherwise, we'll take all the questions at the end. Probably we'll spend around 5 to 10 minutes at the end. Okay. So going to next topic. So what are database management systems, right? So in the demo also we discussed like briefly like what is a DBMS. DBMS stands for Database Management Systems, which are nothing but a product, right? A product which offers multiple capabilities to work with a number of databases at the same time. Also put your access restrictions, right? And create views on top of your data and relate your data, avoid redundancy, do normalization, number of things. So just think like in one statement, DBMS tries to address all the problems which come with a traditional file management system, right? So in one term, it can be defined as software that handles storage, retrieval, and updating of data, right? So when you talk about data, there is a cycle with your data. So it doesn't come out of nowhere, right? So there are some data sources which generate data, right? So one good example is our mobile devices. So every person's mobile device nowadays generates at least MBs of data, at least, right? So if you take a picture, it will be in MBs. So it can run into GBs and terabytes. So there are always some sources of data. And the other examples are like IoT devices, sensors, cameras, whatnot, right? You take, for example, railways. Every day, terabytes of data will be generated. If a person buys a ticket, that's a record. A record is generated, right? So there is always a source of data. That data has to be captured, transferred into transformed into electronic form, and transferred into a computer system, and processed into information. And you have to generate some meaningful representation of the information. That means in the form of dashboards or reports or MIS or whatever, right? So there is always a cycle with data. It doesn't come out of nowhere, right? So DBMS stands for, it's a software that handles storage. That means when you capture this data, when you want to store it somewhere, you can't store it in non-persistent storage like your RAM or FRAM or whatever it is, right? So it has to be persisted into a secondary storage like a HD hard disk drive or solid state drive, tape drives or cloud storage or whatever, right? So DBMS can handle storage of data, retrieval of data. So when you say retrieval of data, just storing is not enough. So in order to process it, you have to fetch it. Or in order to, once you transform it into or process it into information, you have to again fetch it and apply some calculations, apply some logic, and show it as your dashboards, right? So retrieval is also very important, and also updating. So updating is also very important because every time the data doesn't stay in the same with the same properties, right? So if a person's record is there and age is there, the age doesn't stop, right? Every day we grow and every year and the age keeps on changing. So there is certainly need for updating of it. So DBMS is a software that can handle all these major operations that you want to do with data, right? And it's a collection of data which is in the form of databases, right? So it's not a single database. So when you say DBMS, you take SQL Server, Oracle, or any other technology, it's a collection of databases. That means you can create number of databases, right? And even these databases can be interrelated, and within this database, the tables and various other DB objects can be interrelated, right? And yeah, as we discussed, like it tries to address the issues which are related to file management, FMS, and makes data retrieval consistent, removes redundancy. That means if you apply a particular query, unless the data which is behind that query has changed, it should return consistent result. That means if you have two users, one user is connecting, is running the same query at a particular point of time, and another user is also running same query. So both should get similar results, same results, right? There cannot be inconsistent. So it ensures that the retrieval results are consistent, and it also removes redundancy. That means, as we discussed in FMS, there can be, if you take one data element, there can be multiple places where you have to update the data, right? So that can lead to inconsistency. So both are interrelated. If there is redundancy, there is a chance of inconsistency. So first it has to remove the redundancy. So if you take one particular data element and a particular property, so there should be only one place for that particular property to be updated or stored or whatever operation, right? So if a person's age is there, there should be only one place where the age has to be updated, or from where the age has to be retrieved. There should not be multiple places. So that is called avoiding redundancy. Redundancy is nothing but repetition of same data in multiple places. Okay. So it can also restrict access to data. That means you can create user accounts, restrict access, what user can do, what operation. There can be database roles. So roles enable you to manage the users in a more easier manner. Right? And as we have seen in the demo, like examples, prominent examples are like SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, etc. So going to the next one, we have to understand what exactly is data modeling, right? Um, am I going faster? You want me to slow down? Okay. Okay, fine. So data modeling is so whenever you are doing any database related project or any other project where you are designing the data, right? So it can't be done. So you have some data and you can't directly store it in a DBMS. So there should be some design in your data, right? So that is called data modeling. That means if you take an example, so railways, right? So let us take railways as an example. Right? So railways will have various departments, right? Administration, billing, infrastructure, construction, mechanical, so many departments, right? So first you need to identify what data you want to capture and what are the entities in your data. So when you say entity, it can be a department or it can be a person, it can be your infrastructure, or it can be a particular building. So anything that can be represented in a physical form for which you want to physical or non-physical form for which you want to capture the data. So that is called an entity. So first you have to identify what are the entities in your project. Take any example, school, college, or bus service, or whatever it is, right? So there will be entities everywhere. If you see in the physical world, we are all entities. So we carry some property, right? Skin color, hair type, or whatever it is, right? So these entities have to be defined first. So entities are nothing but the elements for which you want to capture the data. Data is nothing but the properties. So relationship. So you want what will capture? Will capture the properties of those entities, right? So property can be n number of properties. If you take a human being, n number of properties are there. Physical, psychological, mental. So you may not require to capture everything, right? So what properties you want to capture, that depends on your project. So you have to define entity. You have to understand what entities are in scope. You have to understand what properties of those entities are in scope, and you should also understand what are the relationships between these entities. That means in a railway station building, so what are all the entities? So there can be persons and various other departments working together, right? So what is the relationship between these entities? So if a customer comes in and goes to billing department, there should be a relationship between your personal entity and the billing department, right? So for ticketing department. So these relationships have to be understood first. So you can't straight away go and start writing some queries and typing some queries. So in order to capture the data, you should first design your database. So that is called data modeling. Okay. So process of creating a data model. Data modeling can be defined as the process of creating a data model. So what is a data model? That question can come up again. So data model, modeling, both are like similar, right? So data model is logical design, which can conceptually represent your DB objects. So whatever you require to capture, it's a logical design. So when I say logical design, it is not physically present somewhere, right? And this logical design can be taken in the form of ER diagrams or UML diagrams and can be implemented in any technology, like not only SQL Server. So if I give you a logical design or conceptual design, you should be able to take it to SQL Server or Oracle or any other database DBMS technology and implement. So it's the generic design of your data, right? So what are the representations of this logical design? As we discussed, ER diagrams and UML. So ER diagram stands for entity relationship diagram, right? So you have entities. Entities will have properties, and there will be relationships between your entity. So in SSMS, we will see how to generate these ER diagrams. So in SQL Server, these are also called database diagrams, right? And UML also can be used. So probably in your curriculum, you might have come across universal markup language. So UML is used in many places, not only for database design, data modeling. It is used for technical architecture, solution designing, and a lot of other things, right? Class diagrams, low-level designs, and all. So UML also can be used for logically designing your data. So who does this normally? The normal practice in industry, like data architects or business analysts, can do this. Can form and create these ER diagrams, and they give to database engineers or application developers, and they will actually transform these into physical design, right? So that is about logical design and like how the representation is. So conceptual or logical design is what means what you want to capture, what the data elements comprise, what are the properties. So all what questions are addressed using conceptual design, right? And conceptual and logical is how. Logical is how means how you want to do that. So how you want to relate. What is the type of relationship? So there is a slight difference between your conceptual design and logical, right? Physical is more like implementation of your logical. So conceptually, when a project starts, business analysts and other product owners and all other stakeholders, they sit together and try to understand what needs to be captured. And logical design, when data architects and other people come in, they will take this conceptual design and transform it into logical design, which addresses the how part of it. That means how the relationships have to be established and how the properties have to be represented, what data types, and blah, blah, all those things, right? So physical design, database engineers take this logical design and they will implement it in a particular DB. Okay, so these are all like slight differences between conceptual design, logical design, and physical design. Conceptual and logical more or less like very near to each other, and normally we do logical design and physical design directly, the real-time projects. Conceptual design is more like in a raw form, like you put in a Word document or whatever, right? So may be represented in the form of requirements, right? So a sample ER diagram. So compared to UML diagrams, my taskbar is overlapping. Anyways, like so this is a sample ER diagram. So compared to UML diagrams, ER diagrams are majorly used in the logical design of your database. So what you can see here, student is an entity. So entity is represented in the form of a box. So when you join a project, probably your data architect or your team lead will come and say, boss, this is the ER diagram, and start creating the physical design, right? So when what you can see here is like the entity is represented in a rectangular box. So there is some representation, right? And again, this entity can have properties, right? So student entity, what are the direct properties? Name, phone. So wherever you see direct arrow and something represented in oval shape, that is a direct property. Name, student ID, phone, date of birth, right? Address. And a property can have sub-properties. So a name can have sub-elements, first name and last name, right? And address can have address, our door number, city, street, etc. So these are all sub-properties. But what are the direct properties? All these, which are in oval shape and directly connected to your student. So in our database terminology, a student will be represented in the form of a table. So this will go and get implemented as a table. And all these properties, so where you see underline, this is a primary key. So we'll see what a primary key, right? So all these properties are defined as columns, right? So even the subproperties will be represented as column, or it can be another table. So normally what we'll do, if address has subproperties, we'll have an address key in the main table, and we'll create another table with these subproperties where that key can be related, right? So we'll see all these relationships. But understand, in ER diagram, whatever you see in rectangular boxes, these are entities. Whatever you see in oval shape, these are properties. So in these properties, if you see underlined, this is the primary key. Okay. So there is some terminology which has to be followed. So if somebody represents the logical design, gives to somebody, they have to understand, right? So there is a common terminology or representation followed. Right? Again, here you can see exam is an entity. All these are properties, primary key, and between these you see this, rhombus, right? Diamond shape of representation. So these are all relationships. So between entities, you are trying to establish relationship. So there can be n number of relationships. Okay, as we have seen, like one to many, many to many, one, right? Many to one, and there can be foreign key relationship. So many types of relationships can be there, right? So this is a sample ER diagram, entity relationship diagram. Okay. So let us see a brief overview of your SQL Server. Right? SQL Server is a data engine introduced by Microsoft. It is developed and offered by Microsoft. It's a data engine, or RDBMS, right? And it provides environment used to create and manage databases. So it's a, as we have seen, it's a full-fledged DBMS where you can do number of activities which are offered as standard by DBMS, right? And on top of it, there are lots of other features on the SQL Server, and allows secure and efficient storage. Okay, that means you can secure your data. So in real-time projects, there will be number of instances where, I mean, the data has to be secured in multiple ways. So the security level can increase from basic to advanced, right? So some projects like where you have banking or BFSI, any other telecom related projects, or where user data is stored, it has to be maintained in a very secure manner. So anybody just cannot go in and access the production data and do some manipulations. So it will be very secured, and many companies, many clients will have data security requirements, audit requirements. That means if something goes wrong with the user data, it can lead to a lot of complications to the companies. They can land up in paying a lot of penalties, right? I mean, in developed countries especially, even a person's date of birth and address are considered very secure. So you just can't reveal their phone number, address, and date of birth. This is called PII, personally identifiable information, right? Which is very sensitive, which has to be encrypted, which should not be accessed by anybody. Only few people should be able to access. Even if application is running, the keys are secured, the connection strings are secured. So much of security implementation. So most of the, I mean, security features can be done using DBMS, right? And it also allows efficient storage. That means ultimately, what will happen? The day, whatever, for example, if I'm running SQL Server, I install SQL Server on a machine. Where the data will get stored? It will get stored in the hard disk drive, right? Secondary storage, persistent storage. But who is doing all the memory management? How the blocks have to be, partitions have to be created? How efficiently it should retrieve the data from hard disk drive, right? So all this is taken care by your DBMS. You are not getting into those details, right? So that is the abstraction level that DBMS or provision given by DBMS. So everything, the storage management, memory management is entirely abstracted by DBMS. So you just need to worry about creating designs and implementing. Right? So it also provides business intelligence platform. So as we discussed in the demo, like there is a BI package, which is also called MSBI, and yeah, I mean we have another course for that actually. So it comes under advanced SQL Server, where SSRS, SSIS, SSAS, analytical services, integration and reporting services. All these are covered actually. A very, very useful topic. And so let's have a demo of connecting to SQL Server. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Before that, like you have to install this SQL Server management. As we discussed in demo, uh, this is the IDE or the development environment for managing and doing programming with SQL Server. Uh, so if I apply XMS, the latest version, stable version, as we discussed, it is 2017. It is free of cost client tool given by Microsoft. Yeah, you can go here, download SQL Server Management Studio. And, there are a number of steps as part of installation, right? And one important thing in the installation is like in one screen you will be asked about administrator, right? So whether you want to have Windows authentication or SQL Server authentication or both. And you have to, if it is SQL Server authentication, you have to give your administrator username and password. If it is Windows authentication, it will directly take the username which is logged into your machine, right? So I mean, yeah. Otherwise, it's very straightforward, not so complicated. Uh, right. So that is about installing. So after installing, yeah, you also need SQL Server. It's not just XSMS, it's the client tool. So you can you have to install any edition of SQL Server. So, yeah. Yeah, better go with 2017, which is GTM version, stable version. SQL Server downloads. So, 2019 is there, but it's right now a release candidate. Go to this SQL Server 2017. Yeah. 2019. Yeah, these are like free editions, like Express and Developer are free editions. The basic version, the basic edition is Express. So normally we go with Express. You can also go with the um, Developer edition. So slight difference is there. You can also do some testing of the databases in a non-production environment. So normally used in real-time projects where you want to do testing and other stuff as well. So otherwise, very slight difference between Express and Developer editions. Okay, so download one of these, Express or Developer, which are free. And once you install SQL Server, you will see these Windows services created. So how to go to these Windows services? Just type like services, okay? And when you open this, you will get this window. And just for your information, and very rarely, unless you are a SQL Server administrator, which is covered as part of the advanced course, you won't be actually manipulating these Windows services, right? So, but these, just for information, number of Windows services created as part of the SQL Server installation, right? So this is the main database in there. SQL Server, in bracket, you will see the edition of the SQL Server. This is the main database engine. And on top of it, you have SQL Server agent, which will enable you to run jobs. Jobs are nothing but you might have seen Windows scheduler jobs, right? So you go to scheduler, task scheduler, you can create some tasks to run repeatedly, right? So that kind of functionality is offered by this SQL Server agent, which enables you to create SQL jobs on top of your SQL Server. Again, SQL jobs are part of the advanced course, right? So SQL Server browser, so it enables you to do browsing. So it enables you to connect information to client computers. right? And CIP service and VSS writer, these are all like supporting services. So there is a host of Windows services which are created as part of SQL Server Installation, right? For your information. So right now I have installed I installed SQL Server Express. I also connected to this. Otherwise, what will happen? Like, where do you start actually? Let me close this. Okay. So when I say SSMS, click on this. It will take a while. Here you can see the version. Though we are saying 2017, 2019, or still the older versioning is maintained. So this is the login prompt. So this is the, I mean, you connect to a particular database and you also give the authentication information, right? So first one is the server type. So we have discussed about business intelligence. As part of business intelligence, there will be more Windows services which are deployed. So when you deploy business intelligence studio on top of your SQL server, it will install some Windows services which are related to analysis service, reporting service, integration service, SSIS, SSRS, SSIS, right? So to which server type you want to connect, whether it is a core database engine or some other BI related service, right? So for now, I'm trying to connect to core database engine because I don't have any other BI service running on my local computer. So it's not only about local computer. Just understand you can connect to any server. So even if a server running in cloud or some other network computer system, you can actually connect to that particular server. So it's not just about local servers. So for example, you have any while development, you have some other remote server, you can also connect to. Right. So what is the server name? Next one is server name. So by default, what it will do, it will populate the local servers, local SQL servers which are installed, and other servers can be different servers, right? And you can also browse for more. And whether it is local server or network server, you can select. And when you say network server, in the default network, which is to which or default network or networks to which your local computer is connected, it will try to retrieve the data of all the SQL servers which are installed in your network. You can, if you are authorized to connect to a particular network, you can just select it and you can start connecting, right? Local servers, it will search locally. So locally also you can have number of SQL servers. So it can be Express and various versions of SQL Server. So you can have multiple versions running together, right? So, so that's what it is asking. So database engine. So right now only SQL Express is installed. I'm selecting that. You have to say okay. So once you have connected once, it will come in the main drop down actually. Otherwise, initially you have to browse for, right? Or otherwise, if you have the network name, you can directly give it. So for example, if you have this, you can directly paste that here actually. Okay. Fine. So coming to authentication, there are two authentication types. One is Windows authentication, and other one is SQL Server, right? So we discussed like Windows authentication takes the Windows credentials, whether it is local credential or Windows Active Directory credentials or Windows NT CE credentials. It will take those credentials. Okay. When I say SQL Server, you have to actually enter the login and password. So these SQL Server authentication users are local to your SQL Server, which are like database users. So some roles are created and users created locally in SQL Server. These are not Windows users, right? So there is a huge difference between SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication. But once the authentication is done, all the features offered and everything is like same, right? So when I say Windows authentication, by default it is taking what is there in my local system, right? And I'm selecting this and I'm saying connect. Right now I don't have any SQL servers. So initially, when I installed SQL Server, I selected Windows authentication as default. Okay. So right now I'm connected. So if you after connecting, if you want to disconnect, you can use this button here. So before that, let us explore the SSMS environment. So understanding SSMS, yeah. So understanding SSMS environment is also very important from database development. So let us go through these menu items. This is a standard file menu. So specific to SQL Server, you have this connect and disconnect. So if you want to connect to any particular SQL Server instance, you can select this, and you can connect to multiple SQL servers. For example, you have other network servers and all. You can select that, and you can say connect, and there will be another node created here. Okay. So connect, disconnect, or you want to disconnect or connect to a particular server. And this is like standard new and open. You want to you create a new project file or whatever, right? And open, you want to open a project folder, and various other types of entities like merging and file analysis service database, and file disconnected. So many other things can be done from open, right? Saving all, you can save all recent files, what are recent files, standard file menu, otherwise. Close, save as, otherwise, print. So coming to edit, standard edit. So you want to go to a particular line or a particular file, or find and replace, cut, copy, paste, and what are the bookmarks? If you have any bookmarks, and go to a particular bookmark, right? So coming to views, this is more specific to SQL Server. So in view, you can see various windows available, right? So Object Explorer. So what is an Object Explorer? This is the main window where you will see all the connections. You can browse the databases similar to your Windows Explorer, right? File Explorer. So when I say File Explorer, you will see all the files and all, right? So similar to that, you can see all the databases, various DB objects, security related, and lot many operations can be done from here actually. Okay. So this is one of the frequently used Windows Object Explorer. You can refresh, show policy health status, right? And these are like Object Explorer details, more like a metadata. It shows some details. And what are the registered servers? So what are the registered servers? That means if any server has so first you have to register a server. So when you register a server, you can connect to that particular server. So this is mainly used for backup and recovery kind of. So you have to first register a server, do syncing between the servers and all database engines. So right now I don't have any registered servers, right? And what are the types? What you want to register? Only database engine or analysis reporting and all this, right? And template explorer. Okay. So some templates are available to you. So SQL Server templates like SQL scripts template. So when I say create aggregate, you can select this, and it will open in a new SQL query window, and you will have some template. So this is also very useful. So syntax and all you may not be able to remember every time, right? You can't go to open browser, go to Microsoft site and do and copy from there. So you can directly go here, right? And for example, let us say, yeah, table. So create table, right? Create table. Click on this. So directly the template will come in. So you can do modifications to this template and use it, right? So this template browser is also very useful. Tools. Yeah, Solution Explorer is similar to what you see. What you see uh, in the Visual Studio, right? So similar to Visual Studio solution, you can create your database, right? So by default, some name is given to your solution. Right click, go add, and say new project. Similar to Visual Studio, add new project window is open. There you can see the project templates. So SQL Server scripts or analysis services or integration services and other types of project templates. Okay, so you can add those projects. So add new project. Server scripts. Some name is given. The location of your project, and yeah. Now in this SQL Server project, you can add queries, connections. So, for example, if you are doing database development, better to manage those as part of your projects. It will be a lot easier for you to manage, debug, and do other aspects, right? So that is about your solution experience. And yeah, bookmarks window, like similar to the bookmarks in your. So if you have a very huge SQL script file, you can't. It will be difficult for you to maintain it, right? When you revisit that SQL file, SQL script, if you don't have bookmarks, it will be difficult for you to manage. So those bookmarks are useful there. Error list is more like when you are debugging all the errors and warnings. And if somebody has seen Visual Studio, you'll find a lot of similarities between SSMS and so errors like when you are debugging a particular script, all the errors, and for example, if you have written a store proc and you have executed and there are some errors, you can see all the error, errors here and warnings here. So mainly used for debugging. Yeah, output window, whatever output is there. For example, if you have run some query, that the output of that query can be shown in this output. Yeah. What else? Toolbox. Yeah. So any toolbox or any other third-party controls are there. Drag an item and you have installed those. You can start using from the toolbox actually. What else? Finding results. Other windows, command window. So in demo, we have discussed about SQL command, right? SQL CMD. So when I say command window, you can actually run your SQL CMD commands, right? So this is very useful for debugging, for quickly running some management tasks. So instead of going to multiple windows and doing those management tasks, you can directly type your commands from here. Okay. What else is there? Other windows. A web browser, document or outline, resource viewer, or like advanced. So I don't want to like put a lot of information there. I just understand many types of windows or utilities are available from your view. Project, you want to maintain the project, add a new item, add a new connection, new query, and all those things can be done from project types. Okay. Tools, yeah, some tools are needed for managing your database, right? So, for example, you are doing a lot of database development. You have to fine tune your database. So most of the projects, the bottleneck of performance. That means you build your entire solution, and end user starts complaining that the application is very slow, right? So in no project, no client would like to land up in that situation, right? Because once you build a entire project, it will be very difficult to troubleshoot or fix the issues the end user what end user is complaining. So that's why we have all these agile methodologies and modern methodologies, right? You want to fix and troubleshoot or tune your solution as soon as possible the life cycle. So there are lots of tools available which enable you to visualize, which will enable you to tune your queries or other DB objects. For example, you have written a big store procedure, right? So before you deploy, you have to troubleshoot it actually. You have to fine tune it. So that tuning advisor, profiler, execution plans. So profiler will give you execution plans, and some external tools can be used, and a lot many other options can be set from this. Okay. Just understand these advanced tools are available from tools. Yeah, Windows is like again standard one. Switch between Windows. Help is also standard, very standard. And this is the toolbar. Then do number of shortcut. toolbar where you can do number of activities. Right? So main things are like this connection, disconnection. Select the database, and you will also create new queries. So why this is grayed out now, master? Because I did not create any. So this is contextual menu, right? So I did not. I'm right now. My focus is in the Object Explorer. For Object Explorer, this is not relevant. So, but when I create a new query editor, yeah, one more important thing is like query. So when you click on new query, one random name, I mean, given by SQL Server is given to this particular file. So probably you might have used Notepad++, right? So there you will see number of tabs where the number of files can be opened. So think of it as in a similar manner. So one file, when you click on new query, one default name given by SQL Server, and it will be stored in the standard directory where your SQL Server is installed, right? So you can also save as a different file. You can select that, save SQL Server as, and you can save it in your own location or give your own file name, right? But understand this as a main query window where you do all your programming, right? So whether normal random queries that you are running, select queries and all, or you are creating your DB objects like create, procedure, right? Or create function. So all these operations or programming is done in query editor, right? So this is also a very frequently used window. This is called query editor, and the extension given by SQL Server is .sql files, right? So once you are into this query editor, you can see this toolbar is enabled, right? So by default, it is connected to master database, but you can't run queries directly on the master database, right? So you have to run queries on user-defined database. So master, model, MSDB, MDB, all these are standard databases. So select your, the custom database, and you can start running the queries. But when you are creating table, when you are creating database, you can't select any existing database, your custom database. You should always select your master database. So any database operations like create, drop, or whatever database operations you are doing, you should select master database, because there has to be some place where your database definitions are stored. So database is the highest level parent entity. So within database, you have tables and other DB objects. But where the database definition has to be stored, it has to be stored somewhere else, right? So that is where your master database is used. So whenever you are doing any database operations, always ensure to select master. Okay. Apart from that, you can also use this command. You also use master or use testdb, right? So you can also use one of these commands. So for example, so when you want to execute only part of your code written in query window, you have to highlight that. You have to select that and say execute. Okay. So in this window, you can see like it has changed to testdb, right? And when I say use master, it is changed to master, right? And in the output also you can see, yeah. So in the output window also you can see some output getting generated, right? Yeah. And here also you can see within the query window you will see more user friendly output, like what happened. Right. So that is one important aspect. So execute. So you select something and say execute. If you don't select anything and you are in a particular query window and say execute, everything which is there in the query window will get executed. Okay. Yeah. Parsing, for debugging, you can do parsing. Number of other options are available here. Okay. Standard like indexing, indenting, and commenting, uncommenting. Okay. So this is results to grid, results to text is nothing but, for example, I'm in a particular database, and I'm running some query. Okay, what tables are there? So let's start from table one. So let's start from table. So right now, what it is results to grid. That means when I execute, the results are displayed in grid. So there are other options like results to text. That means the results will be displayed in text. So why this is useful? If you want to just copy, it will be very useful. If it is results to grade, right? It is results to grade. Sorry. Yeah, if it is results to grade, it will be difficult to select actually. You can't just drag and select, right? It will be difficult. So that's where exporting and copying will be easy. So these are all those options like results to grid, results to text, results to file. You directly want to export it to a file, right? Execution plans. So these are like performance tuning. And so before you actually deploy your code, you want to test your code, right? So what is the execution plan? Where you can improve performance, right? All these things can be done from here actually. Very options and intelligence. Yeah. So that is about SSMS walkthrough. Okay. So I think we covered these two today. So in tomorrow's class, we will see, we'll dive deeper into databases. So we'll go top to bottom. So we have seen about DBMS and all the conceptual things, right? From tomorrow, we'll start looking at actual DB objects, how to do the programming. So the highest entity is database. So we'll start with database and dive deeper. So we can't go bottom up actually, right? Yeah, I think I'm done for the day. Any questions? Raghu, Chandana. Sharath. Vishwa, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. I think there are some questions in chat window. Gayatri is asking, what is MIS? MIS is Management Information Systems. That means many companies, many clients, after you capture the data, there has to be some reports generated for the management, higher management, right? Starting from CEOs or COOs or various roles, finance department. So different types of reports have to be generated, right? So that is called management information system, right? So all the reporting which are useful reports which are generated for various management departments within a company is called MIS, Management Information System.
Hello,
Yeah,
you're able to hear me?
yeah, I'm able to hear.
Yeah, so I was thinking if there are any videos for giving a detailed explanation of SSMS because I see a lot of options there. Do we have
Uh,
any such videos so that it will help us to have more clear understanding?
okay, you mean to say what are all the options available?
Yeah, SSS, exactly. Any demo kind of like which explains. Though you already went through a lot of things, which is good. But in general,
Okay.
do we have any such videos available?
Uh, yeah, I can share videos, but the thing is, see, whatever we can cover at I mean, at this level, I think I already covered. Because if I dive deeper, it will be very difficult for you to understand. For example, if
But
I take this, yeah.
I actually got it, but the way you even went through it through is good. But in general, to know more about it, just for in
Yeah, we
future.
can do that, but I think, yeah, I mean, definitely we can do that. But the thing is, when you're actually doing the programming, for example, you have written a store proc or function, right? And you want to
Yeah,
tune that. Then, if you see this execution plan and all, it will be more contextual and makes sense actually. Because if you just look at some video or something, I don't think it will help you unless you
yeah,
have some real time. Yeah, that's what I mean. At this stage, as an introduction, whatever we could cover, because I can't explain everything in one go. I mean, I can explain, but it will be difficult for you to understand,
true, true.
right? Yeah. So you will definitely see, because when you are diving into these databases, T-SQL, and various queries and built-in functions, joins, subqueries, definitely those whatever useful tools are there, those will come into picture. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, understanding that way is a lot better than going through some documentation. So there is a 1,000-page book. So I can read that book, but how long it will take,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It will be
absolutely.
difficult to relate everything, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So have some patience. I understand you are very, very interested. So yeah, have some patience. Like definitely, we'll cover the tools.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I
thank you.
mean, not, yeah. So whatever is relevant to the curriculum, we'll be covering those. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. One thing is like not only this course, you attend any course. Um, like practicing is very, very important. Okay. Um, and today, what you can do, like we'll share the recording, right? You can install SQL Server Express, SSMS, start exploring, right? And try to do these basic operations, explore all the windows, right? And that will be very useful. Not only this class, after every class, not only this course, any course, what we strongly suggest is you do the hands-on immediately. Because if I start diving into deeper concepts and all, it will be difficult for you to understand. Okay. So progress little by little every day after every class, instead of keeping a backlog and struggling at the end. Okay. So end of this course, we want to see you all very, very comfortable in SQL Server basics. Okay. Yeah, Raghu, I will try to share some content. But what I suggest is run with the course. So whatever course curriculum is there, if you closely follow and I mean run along with that, then it will be a lot useful for you. Okay. But anyways, I'll share the content as you asked. Any other questions before we stop it? Yeah, I mean, when you initially say there can be number of options here, so don't be bothered that see in 1 hour you can't learn everything, right? So definitely it needs practice. You have to go step by step, right? By end of this course, that is what our intention is to make you very very comfortable in SQL Server. So you should be able to go to an interview and confidently say, I know SQL Server programming, right? I can create objects. If you give me a logical design, I can convert that into a physical design. Okay, that's all from my side. Any questions?
Yeah, I think we can end it here.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.